don't advise it. Back in the day, I never dreamed that we could take a picture with a telephone and carry it in our pocket. Here come the internet, YouTube. Sometimes I tried to relive my old days. Glad there wasn't cell phones back then. Nowadays, I can take my own picture with nobody else there, and I met some great people on YouTube. This is Muskrat Outdoors. That's him on the left. You'll have to ask him if he's scared or not. I'll link the video below. Muskrat chases wolves in the Idaho mountains, and he makes things, and he works with leather. He's kind of like me in a lot of ways, and I like watching him because he's a thinker. He thinks different than me, of course. If we all thought the same, it'd be a boring world, wouldn't it? I decided that since a muskrat wants to call a wolf, I'd try to go with him. I'd never be able to go to Idaho and see a wolf or even try to call a wolf. I figured I'd send part of me with him on a wolf hunt. In a way, I'd kind of be there. Now my farm is a part of me, and I'm a part of it. This piece of walnut come from my farm. I made all these calls and I hunt with them. I have for years. There's one that is the same shape with the same tone board. And I'm gonna kind of copy that shape so that he and I kind of hunt with the same kind of call. At least I hope he does. I have no idea what his call sounds like. I'm not going to slobber on it. That's up to him. I've made enough of them to know it'll make noise. Now I know that the thinker he is, he would like the fact that I use a belt sander and sharpen my wrenches to use them for a tenon cutter. He and I think alike in the way that some folks call things junk. And he and I say, I need that. Don't know when I need it, don't know what I need it for, but one day I'll look at it and I'll make something and people will say, hey, I need that. That's the kind of thinking that I like. That's the kind of thinking that he does. I've been watching him a lot longer than I've been on YouTube. I didn't used to comment. I even forgot my password for years. Then I started posting videos and he and I got to talking. I'd like to sit down with him sometime for a few days and just swap stories, and I don't think we'd ever get to the end. Right here I'm filling the porosity in a deer antler so that my drill bit doesn't wander. It's a long process, but I enjoy it. It gives me time to think up other ideas of things to do. Kind of risky after all this work to cut a groove in it. Crush up some stone with my homemade rock crusher. Found the pipe in a pile of junk that I've been gathering. Welded a bolt in the end of the smaller one and just a big old blob on the end and ground her down. Made myself a rock crusher so I could crush about 3 or 4 different grits. Got to put a fine grit in the bed and mount your stone in it. That way it'll stay good and tight when you glue it. It don't take very long. Just didn't want to bore you with a bunch of noise. There you go. There's some crushed rock. I won't bother you with the other grits. Then we take super glue and we get to work. You got to grind it down and look for voids and grind it down and look for voids. It's a process, but it gives you time to think. This is a very inexpensive dressing tool for a grinding wheel. If you get a groove in your grinding wheel, this will grind it flat again. It's very inexpensive. That's basically just a grinding wheel, so we're going to make her flat. It's got a diamond coating on it, and if I ruin it, that's okay. It's only a couple bucks if that. But after you get so far, you got to start wetting that tool, because if you get that glue hot, it'll turn yellow on you. So I just go real easy, real slow. It'll get the job done. Now that the inlay's almost done, doesn't look right to me, so it needs something. So I cut 2 guidelines. Old Muskrat, he liked this too. I saved an old snare, put it in that groove, hold her on there till the smoke comes up. Leaves a burn ring. I keep that hanging on my workbench. I've used her pretty often. And when we get done with that burn ring, we've got another trick. There we go. That's what she looks like, and we did that with a snare. Now this here is white vinegar, rusty steel wool, and a little bit of vodka to keep it from molding. And it's not a stain. It brings the iron in the wood to the surface. And you got to sand away what you don't want, and if you're not careful, some woods have enough iron in it that it'll be a 1/16 of an inch deep and you can ruin the workpiece. This piece has a tiny bit of sapwood in it, so I'm not too worried about it. It'll turn black like a magic trick on certain walnuts. Others, like maple, hardly does a thing, so I add tea bags when I do that. We'll talk about that in a different video. Believe me, there was a lot more time than you see in this video on the outside of this call. Now I got to take the big risk, finish the inside, and try not to break it. We get there eventually. Sometimes things go bad and I throw them in a old trash can, really. And then I'll look down in that trash can a couple of years later and go, wait a minute, I know how to save that, and I'll make something different. This one here turned out. I used a Dremel tool and put my maker's mark, and now I'm filling it full of ink. That way it won't fade and go away. I don't care if it's got it on there or not, but some people do. Now, you'd think we'd be done, but we're not. Gotta work on that tone board here in just a second. Yes, that's super glue. And yes, I'm using it as a finish. This takes a lot of practice. You can mess up real quick. I think I've got her down for the most part. Sorry about playing my guitar so much in my videos, but I don't like YouTube sending me them copyright strikes, and I don't know how all that works anyway, and I don't want to bother anybody. You sure don't want me talking the whole time. Now, I can't exactly remember what kind of wood this tone board's out of. It's an exotic that somebody bought me years ago. But it's real hard, and it's full of enough natural oils that it should last a long, long time. Maybe even forever. I don't think there's a scratch on mine, and I've been using it for years. Mine's a different kind of exotic, so we're going to find out. We're going to go ask Muskrat. But everything's done except for a wedge to hold the mylar in. And like I said, the mylar reed is the only thing that I didn't make. Now, another thing, have y'all ever seen a deer antler measuring tool? It's the same one that I sharpen for cutting a tenon. Now this wedge has a little bit of a taper on it. That's why it's called a wedge. So I gotta go a little at a time. I want it to fall through the caul without the mylar in it. I want it to stick real good with the mylar in it. It's tricky, just a little at a time, and keep trying it over and over again till she fits. The antler band between the tone board and the caul is not just decorative, it's to keep the wood from splitting when you jam the wedge down in there. Hopefully. Now, I'm no professional coyote hunter like some of these young folks on the TV claim to be, but I've called plenty of them in with my call. I'm about to show you kind of what it sounds like. A little out of practice, it's getting harder and harder to walk these hills, and I would imagine hunting a wolf would be even harder. I sure hope it works for him, but I know they'll hear it. Long ago, we used to just take pictures of the coyote. We didn't worry about selfies and such, if we took a picture at all.